You have shared with me two specific stories about the life of Billy Graham, and these are really touching. Let's talk about 9/11 first. 2001, you're in the White House. What happened, Karl?
Well, Tim Gagline and Matt Smith, two of my deputies, were in charge of the service at the National Cathedral, and they suggested that Billy Graham be asked to participate, and he readily agreed. The difficulty was we had to get him to Washington, D.C., and on that morning of that service, one civilian aircraft was in the skies above the United States.
We should remind everybody that aircraft had been grounded all across the country at that point.
One civilian aircraft, and it was bearing Billy Graham from North Carolina and Washington, D.C., and Tim and Matt, I can't remember which one of them was, but they were literally on an open line listening to the communications to make certain that Graham's aircraft was handed off from air traffic controller to air traffic controller and not impeded in its trip to Washington. But one aircraft is civilian aircraft is in the skies above the United States, and it bears Billy Graham.
I can hear how he touched you in your voice, Karl.
You know, I met him before that, and I met him at an event that took place in the big building over my shoulder, the Texas State Capitol. In 1995, George W. Bush was inaugurated as governor, and Billy Graham had played an important role in bringing him to Christ. And Billy Graham offered to come and be at his inaugural, which was a deep honor. And he presided over the inaugural. But the night before, there was a dinner. And sitting in that room was the former President of the United States, George H.W. Bush, and his wife, Barbara, who were very close to Billy Graham and his wife. And the future, unbeknownst to anybody in that room, the future President of the United States, 43, about to be inaugurated governor of Texas. My job was to meet Graham in his room and convey him through the back halls and the back elevators of the hotel to this ballroom. So we got to spend a few moments together. I've only twice in my life felt like I was in the presence of, when I was with a human being, that I felt I was in the presence of the eternal, and Billy Graham was the first time. And there was something about the man. He was gentle, he was kind, but there was something seriously about this man that gave off the sense of godliness and service. And I've always remembered that moment because I was so taken with it.
That's a remarkable story. It begs the question, who was the other one in your life? Who compares?
Pope John Paul, whom I got to meet twice when I was at the White House. And the same thing, you could sense these were men of God, that these were people who were deeply imbued with the Spirit of our Lord. And but Billy Graham, and the nicest man in the world. Here I am, a young guy helping convey him down an back elevator through a kitchen in order to get him to the dining room. And he was such a kind and gentle man, and the prayer he gave was so powerful, both that day and then the day that he comforted the country. Nobody who saw him preach that day in the National Cathedral can forget the sense of comfort that he was giving an entire nation that was deeply grieving and many fearful.
A humble servant. And as you point out also, Billy Graham is the one who helped bring George W. Bush.
Yeah,
43.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Around the table in the family compound in Kennebunkport, George W. Bush, young George W. Bush, would ask questions of Billy Graham, probably slightly flipped and slightly a little, out of the norm. But Billy Graham took it all and helped bring him to Christ.
In 43's way. That is so unique. Karl, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us today.
You bet.
Thank you, sir.